My next guest, the lead NFL draft analyst for Pro Football Focus. He knows so much more than I do, and we're going to take like a little USB cord, Trevor, and take it from your brain, and we're going to put it into my brain, and we're going to get the download and transfer all of the PFF information, okay?
This sounds a little too much like Severance, which the latest episode of Severance, if anybody is watching, was a lot to take in. So I'm a little taken back by that analogy, but we can do it. That's fine. We can go with that. That's fine.
I haven't seen a single episode. Is this the show with like the escalator and the bad lighting and Adam Scott and talk about innies and outies? Is that true?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't describe it like that, but unfortunately, everything that you just said is a part of the show. So yeah, actually, you were 100% correct.
Corporate lighting. It doesn't look like an enjoyable show to watch. And what I mean is the innie outie thing? Is it about? If it has anything to do with belly buttons, I'm out.
It has nothing to do with belly buttons, so you are safe. You're good to go. You can keep watching.
I did watch White Lotus.
Ooh, I didn't see that one.
Okay, well then look, this is why we have the USB cord, and I'll download you and you'll download me. Let's get to some of these things. You were in Indy. I was off the grid, but every time I look, there was some like wild stuff happening. There was some, speaking of like things that could be television shows. I don't want to talk about that though. What do I need to, let's start here. Let's start big. What is the one thing that really stuck out to you in the whole week and process?
Okay, it feels like the running back is back. A lot of people have just been like devaluing the running back position, but we have some incredibly talented, incredibly athletic running backs, which are going to put to the test, what everybody says. PFF, we've said this as well, like, hey, you got to be cautious of running back return on investment, where you draft them. Do you take running backs in the first round? I think we get multiple running backs in the first round this year, and it's because so many of them showed up big, tall, fast, explosive, looked great in the on-field drills as well. So I don't know, just when you asked me that question, what's something that stuck out to you? I feel like the running back is back this year, and I feel like we're going to see that in the draft.
But the running back was back last year with the Derrick Henrys and the Saquons and the James Cooks and all of that. So, obviously you're not a GM, we're not setting the market, but the market has to change, right? If we're talking, now we're getting first rounders at the RB spot, would you be surprised to see the value of the running back go up?
So I think so overall, like we're talking about Ashton, Jeanty, who is the #1 running back consensus basically from everybody, being a top 10 pick. And I think that one of the first landing spots that I go to him is for the Las Vegas Raiders. If they don't love one of these quarterbacks in this class, it's one of the spots that I could see him going because their new general manager, John Spytek, he comes over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he got to see like how great Bucky Irving was this past year and how that helped them achieve what they wanted to this season, especially on the offensive side of the football. And when he was at his combine podium media session, he was saying, look, I want to emulate the Philadelphia Eagles. Like, I want to be strong in both trenches, but I want to run the ball. I want to run the football. And so that doesn't mean you have to take a running back in the first round at number 6, but it makes me think that it's possible. And to your point, we're seeing a lot of teams lean more back into the run game because we knew that this would happen. 3-4 years ago, you have Mahomes and Josh Allen and all these guys throwing for like 5,000 yards every single season. Well, as defenses start to adjust and put more speed on the field, then they get a little bit lighter in their front seven. And now you see teams reacting to that and going, okay, well, if you're going to put one less linebacker on the field, I'm going to put a big-ass running back on the field, and I'm just going to go straight through the tackles, and that's how we're going to win football games. So I do agree with you. I think the running back is sort of coming back in vogue, if you will, and I think that will show in the first round this year.
I hope it shows with the money that I'm a pro player lady. Like, I want these dudes to get their bag. So it better reflect like, oh, it's in vogue. Get a big ass running back that's going to like give his entire body to your cause on offense every like 3 seconds. Then we should be paying them more. I don't know if it'll reflect in that. That's what I was sort of angling at. And by the way, it is a quieter free agent market this year at RB. So we will see those guys in the draft. Najee, Javonte Williams, and Aaron Jones, the big ticket items at running back. Very interesting. Okay, so the dust is settling from the combine. Is there a particular player, pick any, I know I'm so broad, I'm just starting to learn about this stuff this week. Who helped their draft stock the most?
I would say the guy that we saw yesterday, the offensive tackle from Missouri, Armand Membou, probably helped himself the most because he is so athletic, and he shows up above 330 pounds, and yet he runs a 4.91. That's crazy. I also loved his 40-yard dash. He talked about this with Stacey Dales on the field. It's like he was in a tennis match while he was running. It was just like, hup, 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 hup. And he even says afterwards, he's like, I was probably a little too loud when I was running the 40-yard dash, but look, Armand, whatever helps you run the fastest and test the best, because I think a lot of teams and I think a lot of mock drafts are going to start to talk about him as the top offensive tackle in this class. And it is about what he did, but it's also, you know, some of these other offensive tackles not really having the arm length that you want, or maybe not being the athletes that you want them to be. I think all of that goes into account for a couple of different cases. Basically everything that Armand Membou did, you loved. And so for me, I think he could be the top tackle off the board. And he sort of went from this, you know, maybe picked around number 15 or number 20 or maybe in the 20s, something like that. I think he could be a top 10 pick and the first offensive lineman off the board. I really do.
I love that. I mean, there's an Armand White Lotus thing to be done there, but I won't do it. I will not. Yeah, there we go. Tell me about this Hairston guy's talking about. What do I need to know about Maxwell?
I mean, he also had a phenomenal workout when it came to the vertical jump, the broad jump, the 40-yard dash, super explosive. He had the fastest 40 of any player that was there this weekend. And you see some of that in his tape, but he had a shoulder injury this year where he just did not look like himself. But that 2023 season looks a lot better than the 2024 season. And when he's fully healthy, he's a little bit smaller of a corner, but he gives you the explosiveness that you want at being a smaller size. And he'll tackle. He's a feisty tackler. He's a feisty competitor. He's somebody that has that competitive toughness about him. And that's what you want at the cornerback position. So I also think that he definitely helped his stock, because he was seen more of, okay, where is he going to go on day 2? Is it an early day 3 pick? Is a late second round pick? Something like that. But when you've got that type of speed and when you have that type of mentality that you play with on the field, a lot of teams are going to gravitate towards that. I wonder if we start talking about him in the same range that we talked about Terrion Arnold when he had a great combine and he sort of rose to the back end of the first round where the Lions were able to take him. I feel like that's sort of the range that Maxwell Hairston might be talked about now.
I'm looking at PFF, and everybody should, by the way, if you're me, if you're a late bloomer, late studier, procrastinator, you like to just cram and drink coffee all night to study for the draft, that's what you should use. PFF is the best cheat sheet available, so please check it out. So Hairston's 42nd as a prospect on PFF's big board. You mentioned Membou, she's 24th, but I want to look at your combine risers. And this is part of PFF, go check it out. These are your combine risers. You have Hairston on there, you have, Higgins is on there. Is there anybody else that's sort of a surprise? Because Jaden Higgins is a bit intriguing, 6'4". He can run a 4.4. That's going to command attention.
100% it is. Like he has to be a big riser. And when you talk about combine risers, it's an interesting conversation because you can't just talk about the guys that performed well or ran really well, because the fact of the matter is, if you already thought they were athletic, then when they go to the combine and then they are in fact athletic, you don't want to count the traits twice, as scouts will say. So for guys that are true risers, you want to see a little bit of something that maybe surprised you in a great way. And for Higgins, he fits that bill entirely. When you watch him at Iowa State, he doesn't necessarily win with great vertical speed and great explosiveness. He wins with high route running IQ, really knows how to get off the line of scrimmage, knows how to create that separation with just how he wins within his route, those subtleties. He's got those long arms and he's good in contested catch situations. But now you throw in the fact that his explosiveness scores are really good. His 40-yard dash is really good. And now you've almost got this full, complete X outside wide receiver that you get to talk about. So to me, Higgins was sort of seen as this middle of day 2, early 3rd round, late 2nd round type of a wide receiver. And I think he could absolutely be a top 50 guy. Maybe the 1st round. I'm not totally convinced on that, but somebody who, even if he goes in the 2nd round, and we've seen a lot of good wide receivers in the league go in the 2nd round, he could be that one player this year that really breaks out there, that early 2nd round pick.
You have him as the 7th on PFF's wide receiver list, so everybody go and check that out. He could be moving up even more. We got pro days ahead, all of that. At quarterback, didn't see the studs, but I love that because then you can see the other throwing sessions: Milroe, Leonard, Brady Cook. Beyond, so it's Cam and Shador, 1A, 1B, whatever you want to say. Who's number 3? Who's the 3rd guy?
This will differ so much for every single NFL team. I think Jackson Dart from Ole Miss is probably the guy that is the most consensus QB3 at this point. We did get to see him throw. He threw pretty well. You know, he did a couple of interviews. He's got a big personality type of a guy, former baseball background. So he's got that just natural overall athleticism and throwing ability to him. We saw that plenty of times in Ole Miss's offense with Lane Kiffin. And so I just feel as though the size, the mobility from him, that those big time throws that he's had over the last couple of years, feels as though the NFL would probably gravitate towards a player like that. He's similar stylistically than Zach Wilson, and I know that some people will hear that and just, you know, have PTSD with how Zach Wilson didn't work out. But Zach really just, he was not able to gain a lot of confidence when he played with the New York Jets and during his early part of his NFL career. And so that is something where it was never a lack of ability with Zach Wilson. It was really just a lack of confidence. And I don't think Jackson Dart really has any limitations there at all. But I know some teams love Jalen Milroe. They love the rushing ability. They love what he's made of. I mean, I have not heard anybody say a bad word about Jalen Milroe. Everybody who sits down and talks to them, whether it's the people at Alabama or just, you know, some of talking to people who are really connected around the league, like everybody just, man, he's got such great work ethic. Whatever Jalen Milroe's ceiling is going to be at the NFL level, his desire to hit that, his work ethic to hit that, willingness to want to be the best, that's never going to be in question, because that's always something that NFL teams, I think, lose sleep over. Is you go, man, I love this guy's talent. I love what he could be overall, but does he want it? Does he want it enough to want to achieve whatever ceiling we believe that his athletic abilities?
Do you like him? You're talking about how everybody else feels about him. Do you like Milroe?
I do, and he might be my QB3 when it's all said and done, and he was my QB3, almost QB2 for a long time, because I just don't want to give up on him. He's got a super twitched up throwing motion, tons of arm talent.
What would you be giving up for? Okay, give me the biggest question on this kid. I'm hearing it's consistency. Is that it?
That is it.
Got it.
You wonder about the hand size a little bit about that when it comes to the accuracy and the true ball placement, because he's got a little bit smaller of hands. And I think something that goes underrated when we talk about quarterbacks going from college to the NFL every year is the NFL ball is a little bit bigger than the college football. And so when you have players and quarterbacks who have a little bit smaller of hand size, whether it's 50th percentile or a little bit smaller, the smaller your hands are, the less control you have on the football. And that's just never good when you're talking about true ball placement going to the NFL. And so that consistency, that accuracy is something that worried me over the last couple of years. I did think that it got better in flashes this year, but as the ball gets a little bit bigger and with him having a little bit smaller hands, I just worry, is he ever going to have that true ball placement that you want? Because everything else, I love to bet on with Jalen Milroe.
What if his hands grow another half inch?
Then we're in. Then I'm all in.
What happened here? So 8 3/4 hand size. Here we go. 8 3/4 at the Senior Bowl, and then it jumps to 9 3/8 when his measurables came in at the combine. Now, what I think happened is that he went and found the great Rick Moranis and Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, which was not, of course, the first original, but the flip it and reverse Uno card on the whole thing. He finds him, gets back in the lab, ipso facto, voila, his hands grow. What do you think happened?
I think he purposely got stung by a bee beforehand. You know, they just like put a bee up to his hand and his hand just really swelled. No, obviously that's not what I think. It is kind of frustrating as, you know, evaluators when those numbers are that different, because that is pretty significantly different when you're talking about quarterbacks and having control over the football. You know, there are like hand massaging exercises that you can do to truly stretch out your hands, because the way that they measure hand size is they'll measure it from the end of your thumb to your pinky. So this is sort of your hand size right here. So you can massage it out and you can get it a little bit further out to try to have the longest hands that you can. But the fact of the matter is it's different scouts. It's different people that are measuring it at each of these events. And so sometimes you just get guys who measure it a little bit differently, I guess, maybe on the back side of the hand or the front side of the hand or something like that.
Okay, I'm bored of the hand talk, but I do want to ask, like, the jump that this will make, because and I actually really appreciate you saying that it's frustrating, because I just think it's funny. But I'm just a fan. But you're like, no, this sucks, because it is, and I think you'll agree, like 9 inches is sort of the benchmark. So him being below that probably really hurt him. That was, you know, smaller than Brock Purdy. Now he's on the other side of that benchmark number, and he's straddling the line. How much is it actually going to change where he's viewed? He's the 4th quarterback on PFF's quarterback list now.
Well, I think it goes into sort of, again, what you believed he could become. And you talked about, hey, what's something that's holding him back? It is that accuracy and that ball placement.
Yeah.
And when I think about his hand size, going back to what we were talking about earlier, if he has ball placement and accuracy issues now with a smaller football at the college level, well, the ball gets just slightly bigger and you have below 9-inch hands.
And it rains.
I don't know how much more accurate you are going to become naturally, just because you don't really have that. So that to me is the question that you have to answer here with the hand size with Jalen Milroe. And now that we do have a measurement that's above 9 inches, now you can maybe tell yourself or gaslight yourself, whichever one you think that it is, that like, oh, okay, no. The accuracy can get a lot better. The ball placement can get a lot better. It's not as much of an issue as it was before.
I think it'll help them. I think all these quarterbacks are a month from now
does.
going to go higher than they're going already. And you guys can check out PFF. Obviously, you've got the mock drafts. You've got all of the tools, all of the measurables, everything that you could possibly want. Go check it out. And Trevor, we appreciate you. And
Thanks,
the
Gabe.
Pro Football Focus, of course, the podcast, NFL Stock Exchange with Connor Rogers. Everybody go check it out. Trevor, we appreciate you.
Thanks, Kay. Appreciate it.